Hey, and welcome back to the Difference Maker Revolution podcast. And we're back to 5. We're all here again. And it's a fascinating subject we're going to talk about. So, guys, just so you know, we're 5 pints in of Guinness. So, I don't know what we're going to say, but just bear with us. After 5 pints, we might not say what we want to say. But, Janine, I have a question for you, because we're going to talk about, why people ghost you. And you've sort of brought me straight back to my teenage years when all those girls I fancied just didn't seem to be into me. Like, is that what we're going to be talking about?
Could be why your teenagers don't text you back and they ghost you too. It's so many ways people can ghost you.
So we hear this all the time, right? We hear from our members that, my clients are ghosting me. Why are they ghosting me? Why don't they phone me back? Who wants to take that?
This is a great one, because I feel that most people are struggling to get clients to call them back because they take them through a process rather than an experience. And most of the people that seem to get ghosted seem to be the ones that are making it all about themselves and talking about the photography part of it, rather than finding out about the client and asking them about what's important to in their lives. People tend to ghost because they're just not into you and not and what they want to do is talk about themselves. They've called for a photographic experience for themselves, and if all we talk about is our process, then that doesn't really have a lot to do with them.
So when I was 16, Steve, and I was trying to impress these girls and I was making it about me, that's why I failed, is it?
Well, an area of improvement would have been to start asking about them and what mattered to them, and to make them feel as though you were interested in them, rather than all of the self-love you were giving them.
Were phones around when you were 16, Ronan? Were phones around when you were 16? Or did you have one street phone?
No, we had one street phone. Well after I was 16, Brad, when I first started selling, I used to have to find a phone box, and I used to have all these coins in my car to be able to plug in to ring the office to see was anyone looking for me. It was fun.
They might not have been ghosting you, Ronnie. You just might not have been there when they called back.
Maybe so, Brad. Maybe that's another issue, isn't it?
Maybe your parents
we think they're ghosting us.
Maybe your parents didn't like
geographical issues.
So, can someone clarify this for me? Because I thought our clients ghosted us when they didn't understand the value of photography and the value of us as photographers. I thought that's why they ghosted us, because they didn't value us, no?
Absolutely, it's not about us, is it? It's not about us. That's the problem, John. That's what I was doing. I was making it about me, trying to attract all these girls to come out with me, and I wasn't making it about them. Steve's just taught me a new lesson. So we need to do the same in our business, right, Brad? How do you do that in your business, Brad? Like, how do you make it? How do you get your clients not to ghost you?
You're not supposed to not think about what you're not supposed to think about, Ronan.
How do I get my clients to not ghost me?
Not ghosting them.
I used a double negative, did I, Steve? Or should I just not just use one negative? I used 2. That's what happens after 5 pints of Guinness.
To be honest with you, I've never had the problem. I've never been conscious of the problem to name said problem. Historically speaking, that is, because we would pick up the phone and we would phone and we would speak to people and we'd book people in. And that's continued, and it's getting harder to get hold of people on the phone, but you still get hold of people on the phone. So to get clients to not ghost me, I've not created any interesting strategies. I've only really been aware of it because I think a lot of people are struggling with this ghosting thing. And I think the ghosting thing is just masking the real problem, which is fear and anxiety of actually picking up the phone and making phone calls and trying to make a difference in people's lives. And they might phone somebody once and then that's it. They may put that down, that person not getting back to them, that person's now ghosting them, when in reality it's their fault that they've not phoned them an additional 6, 7, 8 more times in order to try and have that conversation with them. So,
but in that, there's the problem. You've just isolated it in that they're waiting for the client to call back. In some cases, not everyone.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the client to call back, and we know that to give a 5-star service, the client should never have to lift a finger. So it's up to us to then respond and call them back rather than wait for the clients to call.
Well, I think
back.
there's two ghosting parts that we hear. And Brad mentioned the one where, someone has requested information and you call them once and then they don't call you back. And people are like, why aren't they calling me back? They requested information and blah, blah, blah. And then the second time is you do get them on the phone and you book them and then they don't show up and they ghost you. They don't respond to calls or text messages to confirm the appointment, to do your follow-up calls, and they don't show up for their appointment. And so that's a different issue, and I know Steve is going to love this one. It's a different issue than the not being persistent with trying to create a conversation and earn the conversation with them in the beginning. This is you've had the conversation now, and chances are you didn't do it right. And something went wrong in that process because they're not showing up for their session. They're not excited. And so ghosting is a lack of, it's not, I don't know the right word. They're not ghosting you. You just didn't give them a reason to want to come have a photographic experience with you.
But Janina, as all photographers know, that's got a ridiculously easy solution. I'm just charging a booking deposit.
Right, that's right, Brad. Why didn't I think of that? I should be charging a booking deposit. If I did, everybody would turn up. That solves all the problems.
or a higher booking deposit.
A higher booking deposit would also solve.
You're not charging enough of a booking deposit.
Right, that's what it is.
So if it's not that, because we see this debate all the time. In fact, there was a post I saw on Facebook only the day before yesterday.
Yep.
And it was talking about what's going on in this part of California, because even when my clients pay a booking deposit, they're ghosting me. Like, that was literally what the post was about. And it was written in a way that was like, I've charged a booking deposit, they've paid a booking deposit, and they're still ghosting me. What's going on?
Can I just say before we talk about that, ghosting's a weird term, isn't it? Like it's like a youth term. It's really odd hearing Ronan say ghosting.
That's why I'm like, I don't know the right word. It's weird to say. Yeah, I agree.
It's an odd word, right? I've never used ghosting. And I'm the youthiest here. Me and my friends don't. Well, there's a few years between me and you, Jonathan. I don't use the term ghosting. I don't know how. You Gen Xers have just taken it to be young again. And now, we have to do a podcast and use the term ghosting when in the reality is it's just movement. It's just clients not showing up and not getting back in contact with you, because you're not doing a good enough job on the front end.
But what do you mean though, Brad? We use ghosting. We're like both millennials.
I don't use the term ghosting. We've never said ghosting.
Brad is truly a Gen Xer. He just doesn't realize it.
No,
I'm a grumpy old man at heart.
Yeah.
It's an odd term.
I'm even a boomer at heart.
I reject the term.
Well,
it's because everyone's into you, Brad.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go, Steve.
we can talk about movement too, Brad, but then people think they need to go to the bathroom, so
I know, yeah.
I suppose it's what do all these terms actually mean? But you have brought me back to my 15-year-old dating days, because now I realise that I was being ghosted, or I was having movement rate doesn't sound right when you're dating, right? So I was being ghosted before they came out.
You've been ignored.
But then they'll come on a first date, and then after that they ghost me. Do you know what I mean? So it sounds very familiar that there's a pattern here in terms of, so I'm making a phone call, I'm leaving what I think are high quality voicemails, I'm sending, great texts and emails, and still people aren't answering the phone to me. They're ghosting me. But then when I do get them on the phone, and I believe we've had a great call and a great date, and the first date's gone great, and then they even say, yeah, let's do another date and pay a booking deposit, and then they start ghosting me again.
Can I give a better analogy, Ronan, please? Please, can I give a better one? All right, look.
Go for it, Ginny.
Okay, so let's take it into like a real world example of what someone might actually do besides date Ronan. And I'll give a great example. And not that I do it right now anymore because I'm too busy with you guys, but when I used to go to a gym and see a personal trainer, I paid for those sessions ahead of time. And there was one trainer, I showed up for every single appointment. And it was because we had a conversation. He understood what my needs were. He made me passionate about the transformation I was going to receive for my physical well-being, my back, my strength, my stretches, and all these things by meeting and doing that appointment. He left. The next guy that came in, it was just all about the numbers and the this and the list that they had on the wall that day. And I was like, yeah, I know I've paid for it, but I had no motivation to show up for those appointments. There was no amount of money because that trainer didn't get me. He didn't understand why I was there at the gym. He didn't know what my physical ailments were. He didn't really get to that point of trying to understand what my needs were and why I wanted to go to the gym. It wasn't to become the next bodybuilding, female person, the next sports figure model. That was not my goal. It was so I could, photograph without pain. And with my scoliosis in my back, to be able to live a daily life not being in pain. And he didn't understand that. And so I never went back. Same gym.
But the second guy sounds like he made it. The second guy sounds like he made it work, and it sounded like all the hard work. And I think sometimes that's what causes our clients to ghost us, is that if we make it about the work and the process, and not about the true intention of why somebody's coming, then it becomes work. And that's not attractive.
And if something else comes up, they'll pick it.
Of course. So you hear a lot of, we get to hear lots of phone calls, and a lot of them are about all the numbers that, you're an hour in hair and makeup, and then it takes me an hour, and it's about me, and the process and all the work that that's involved in getting from the start to the finish. And all the clients here is it's work, and we haven't given them the opportunity to tell us what their true desire is. What is it that they want to get out of it, when it's about them and what they truly want to get out of it. And nobody really, I think most people are coming in for a photographic experience because they want to experience something. They want to rediscover something. They want to reconnect with someone. The physical ink on a paper, and whether that paper is art paper or torn rag paper or whatever it is that we're describing on the phone, isn't their true purpose of why they're coming. It's about what they're feeling for somebody else and celebrating something in their lives, in most cases. And if we make it work, it's too hard.
So what I'm hearing is Brad's quote, all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, no, I was going to be smug about it, but then I thought, no, I can't be smug. But then I paused, and then I feel I need to explain why I paused. But no, it's a great quote, and I personally love the quote. And Rome is the phone call. 80%, 90% of all your problems that you're going to have in your photographic studio all lead back to how you have conversations with your clients. All can be solved if you just... Well, most of them can actually be solved if you have a conversation with your clients. That's actually meaningful and not just, like you're booking in for an appointment to have a tooth pulled, which is what a lot of... I listen to a lot of calls. Steve listens to a lot of calls. That is what they sound like the vast majority of the time. I'm sorry, everybody who sends me calls, but I suppose that's why you send me calls, to get better. But yeah, it's like pulling teeth. And the better you can make those calls about the client and about what the client actually wants, then they'll become excited, and then they'll actually book and show up and become great clients. It's your responsibility to make them. They're not just going to fall out of the sky and land on your lap.
Well, they actually turn up early when you do that, Brad. Then you have another problem.
Yeah.
The clients, you tell them next Thursday and all they hear is Thursday, and they turn up a week early because they're so excited.
Yeah. I've had that in the past. It's quite funny.
And it's all because we've tapped into what's important to them and got them excited about it. And that sort of alleviates the ghosting thing. So rather than, I don't know, helping people not ghost us, just make them excited, find out what excites them. And for you, Janine, with your personal trainer, you felt understood and you felt heard. Now, we do listen to a lot of phone calls, and the first thing I look at when I'm listening to a phone call is I pull it up and it gives me all the waves from each person. And usually the ones that aren't booking, there's very little said by the client, and the photographer's talking all the way through it. And usually it's not a conversation. We're talking at someone because we feel like we have to tell them about ourselves rather than trying to discover what's important to this client. So that's the first telltale sign. I think the more we talk and the less the client talks, the more chances are that we are going to be ghosted because nobody wants to be talked at.
I think we have to change calling ourselves, we're like the Avengers. I feel like we're now Ghostbusters.
Oh my.
No?
Again, that's talking about the negative, Ronan.
I'll be Bill Murray.
I can't help myself, Steve.
Talking about the negative. We don't want to talk about that. What we want to do is excite people, so then that way they're excited to turn up.
I found Ghostbusters very exciting. Ghostbusters was great.
Have you seen the new Ghostbuster films, Rona?
Oh, are they good?
I've not watched them. I'm not going to comment.
All right. I'm sorry for derailing it. Sorry, Steve. Off you go. I'll stop drinking Guinness now, I promise.
We know you're not going to keep that promise, right?
Steve, I'll ask you this. So, for our listeners who don't care about Ghostbusters, except for the fact that you know that the chick's name in there was Janine, by the way, just, FYI. But anyways, so if we were to give our listeners like 3 tips, we obviously can't do a full training in like 5 minutes on how we can excite clients. What would be 3 quick tips that you would leave our listeners with, Steve?
Oh my god, I thought you were going to layer that question. You were so close to layering
you can
it.
layer it for me, Jonathan.
I'm not putting myself under that pressure on the spot.
So if there were 3 tips, Janine, just 3.
Just 3.
If you could think of 3 tips that would totally help our listeners so that they could get their clients excited. If there were 3 tips, what would they be, Janine?
I'm asking you.
There you go. That's layered now. That's layered now. Get really good at asking questions. And control the conversation. Keeping control of the conversation, because I think most of the time we hand control over to the client, and then their immediate reaction is to then ask questions of us, and the only thing they ask or know how to ask is how much is it. Really, that's pretty much all they ask, like how much is it, because there's an awkward silence or there's a period of awkwardness and they feel as though they have to fill the gap. So get really good at asking questions, stay in control of the conversation, and be present in the conversation. Ask questions about what the client's talking about. Get curious about them, because people love talking about themselves. They don't get the opportunity to do that very often. And so if we engage them and they feel listened to and they feel understood, then they book and they turn up and they spend. And it's as simple as making somebody feel like you truly cared about them and they were the only person in the room at the time when you had a conversation. So when it's a conversation, it's about them telling us about who they are and us asking questions. 80% of that conversation should be us asking another question to find out more, and us getting really curious to find out, who is this person? What's important to you? What is it about this that you want to celebrate? What is that feeling that you get? And if you were to hold on to that, if we could give you this gift forever, what would that mean to you? And we have to understand that we're giving people their forever. And if we do that, then this problem goes away and we've got excited clients. So rather than avoiding people ghosting us, Ronan, we're going to focus on getting people excited, right?
Absolutely, Steve. But I do have a question around that, because we talk about understanding the client's why, right? But the question, what you just said there, you never used the question why. So do you think sometimes photographers are confused about, I'm trying to get to the client's why, so I'm going to ask them a why question, and the client doesn't know how to answer a why question? We need to talk about, bring me and the how and the what rather than the why. Is that a thing or not? Or am I just dreaming that up?
What comes to mind to me when you asked me that question was that, I said, get good at asking questions. But what I should have said is get good at asking questions that are easy for people to answer and that are positive. Because sometimes when I'm hearing people ask questions, even though they're asking a question, it's a very broad question, and sometimes it's a difficult question for them to answer. So making it something that can only lead to the positive, I think is important. And I think that when we're asking questions, we need to think about, okay, what's going to be what's easy for them. Because, a lot of the times we ask questions like, tell me about your family. And they don't really know where to go with that. Because there might be 4 or 5 people. So they'll start with a number of people and then they're fishing, trying to work out what you really want to know. So it has to be something that's a lot more, I suppose, targeted towards whatever it is that they came in for. I don't know,
So
did I answer your question?
I think so. How do you do this, Janine?
Which part?
Well, how do you ask questions of your clients that are easy to answer?
So for me, like with our first birthdays, parents love talking about their babies. And I have one specific baby I'm asking about. So it's never tell me about your family. It's always has to do with that baby that we're celebrating the first birthday for. And again, Steve is so right on the money with this, because moms love talking about their babies. This isn't a problem for us. I mean, it's very easy to ask her a single question and she just goes. And
the problem is, Janine, most mums have run out of listeners.
They've run out of listeners, exactly. And so
and they're looking for another
looking for
listener.
someone to listen to them. So yeah, and even so I wouldn't say that I have an advantage that we always photograph single children, because even our themes are typically done with single children. It's easy to talk about the child and why that child would love to believe in magic for a day, and why Cinderella is so, what makes Cinderella her favorite princess, and tell me about the last time that she dressed up and danced around the house, things like that. I mean, no matter what with Harry Potter, when we do our wizards, it's so easy. Oh my God. You can get somebody who is a Harry Potter fan talking about their kids and have they read the books yet? And what did it mean to them as a parent to sit down and read? Their child's now old enough to read the books that they grew up reading and loving. And now they're bonding over this. And we talk about that and, you know, the epic trip to Universal Studios, and now they're going to come to the studio for their portraits. So like it's very easy when you know your ideal client and you can anticipate what they're going to want to talk about. That's how we do it, and that's how I work with my team on it. Like, we can anticipate what they're going to want to talk about, so you ask the questions, and they might go in a different direction. Okay, we listen, and we ask questions on that as well. But we might have stumbled on it by accident before even chatting with Steve, because we've always worked with one individual child, typically. Or listening, you know, like we'll have some parents with the first child. Well, I never got to do this with my older child. Oh, really? Tell me about your older child. How old is that sibling? You know, and they might say 8 or 9. Like, oh my goodness, you know, I can totally see where that child might also want to feel special and a part of this first birthday celebration, to celebrate being a big sister, you know. And then we'll talk about that specific child. And then while the mom might never have thought to bring the sibling to join in the celebration of the baby, now we have sibling pictures to do at the same time, and it makes the session even more complete. And now the mom who never, like, it's very interesting because I think a lot of times moms get categorized, or they feel like people separate their children in a way. And so if they're doing something for one child, they're not doing it for the other. And so when we actually welcome them to bring the siblings together in that session, it's like a breath of fresh air. Like, oh my gosh, I never thought about celebrating that she's a big sister now, you know, or a big brother, or that relationship in that first birthday, instead of making that sibling feel left out. So anyways, it's just a matter of asking questions that you can relate, that you know they'll relate to, and then listening, and then continuing to follow up on those. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh my god, I thought I just had to charge a refundable booking deposit and they'd all show up and spend money on me and my artwork. How wrong was I?
Oh, Jonathan.
Oops.
You're so cheeky.
They would probably turn up regardless, Jonathan. Sorry to let you know that. That mum that finally found somebody that was willing to listen to her, the minute you call her back, she's going to pick up the phone because she wants to talk to somebody again. And so, and what you said, Janine, was spot on, because people love talking about their kids, and you've hit onto it that we should only be talking about one child, because that makes it easy. When we're trying to group 3 or 4 kids together and ask them questions about all 3 at once, it's difficult. But when you focus on one child, find out what's special about them, find out their personality, it's easy for people to then answer your questions. So yeah, it's great. It's exciting.
It is exciting.
Okay, Jonathan, I'm convinced. Tell me more. How can I learn some more? How can I take all this and put it into action for my business?
That's a great question, Ronan. So my tonality is going to speed up rapidly here, so I hope you're listening to my dulcet Irish tones as I make this all about you. So if you want to discover how to start attracting potential clients for your business, turn them into meaningful, quality conversations, and deliver a discovery call experience that begins the process of creating a quality client, then all you have to do is go to www.thedifferencemakerrevolution.com/impact and sign up for the free 30-day trial of Impact. Or you could click the link below this podcast and you can sign up for your free 30-day trial, where you'll have access to these 5 amazing people that will be your guides through this journey and helping you to fully book your calendar that fits your lifestyle. How exciting is that?
While making a difference to your clients every single day. How better is that?
There is nothing better.
Win-win.
That's it from us this week. See you next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao.
Goodbye.